Hello, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, my pleasure.
So, for everyone that doesn't know, this is Natalie Orr, and she is one of my clients. And I had her on because I wanted her to talk about her business and the success that she's had with her funnel, and well, several funnels that she has. I think the best way to do it is kind of just let you introduce yourself. Can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Okay. So I have a dance business and it's focused around the adult ballet community. So I'm a teacher and I teach online. I have a YouTube channel. I teach offline. And recently I've been increasing my kind of online offering by making a course, which is where I needed your help because I'm really good at teaching, but I'm not so good at marketing and funnels and all of those things. So when I decided that I was going to make an online course, I thought this is the perfect time to get some help in my business because I've been doing everything myself for a long, long time and just kind of YouTube tutorials, videos, different books, and trying to figure it out by myself. And obviously, at a certain point in your business, you get to a point where you're like, it's time to invest, it's time to bring on a specialist. And I'm so grateful that I realized it was that time and that I already knew you, Ryan, because that was like such a perfect moment for me to be like, right, I already know someone who I trust, who I like, and I know that you're amazing at what you do. So it all just came together at the right time as I was thinking about releasing this course.
Awesome. So in that sense, like you had gone through some experiences previously in your business. So you already had some business experience. How long had you been doing your business before you came to that conclusion?
My business wasn't like it didn't really start in one moment. I kind of added different parts of it, and then it kind of grew organically at the beginning. The first thing that I started doing was Instagram. I mean, that wasn't a business, but it was as that was where I started to grow an audience, which later became the audience for my business. So
Right.
that was like 5 or 6 years ago now. And then in that same year, later in that same year, I started my YouTube channel. And of course, at the beginning, it wasn't really a business because it takes a long time to grow an audience and have enough videos so that you can start making money and enough watch time and all those different metrics that YouTube want to start paying you. But eventually that did become part of my business as well as teaching. But originally I was still teaching for someone else. So I was getting paid as a ballet teacher for someone else. And then probably 4 years ago, that's when I started to teach for myself as well as starting to make just a little bit of money from YouTube. And there was also a point in my, I mean, it's evolved so much, but there was also like a year in my business where I was doing a lot of Instagram collaboration. So I was getting paid by brands and things like that. But in the end, I realized that what I really love and what I really care more about is bringing my own courses, different things like from an offering from myself rather than working with brands. Although that was really, really enjoyable too. But from
Why did
yeah,
you decide that? If I can ask.
yeah, of course. I mean,
Why did you start the business? Because it sounded like you had some other income streams. You were working for someone as a ballet teacher within their structure, within their business.
yeah,
Um,
I think
what?
yeah,
Mhm.
sorry. I realized first of all that um, the way that I wanted to do things and the way that I wanted to teach ballet as for adults, I needed to do my own thing. There wasn't something, not in Madrid anyway, I'm sure that there are in other countries, but there wasn't something that was set up in the way that I wanted it to be set up. And really from the beginning, as I said, I started on Instagram in a way with my business and the the community grew from there. I mean, that's quite a long time ago now, 5 or 6 years ago, and Instagram has completely changed in that time. But when I started, there weren't really many people putting anything to do with an adult ballet journey on Instagram. It was mainly just professionals. So that at the beginning was quite a new thing online. Obviously, it's not a new thing offline. Adults have been dancing ballet for like many, 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 many decades. but I think there was like, it felt like a slightly new movement and in focusing on ballet in a different way. And I wanted to be able to incorporate all of that into what I was doing, not just the teaching the ballet steps part. I wanted it to be more of a whole experience. I wanted the community to be a big part of what I was doing. I wanted to be able to teach in a way that made sense to me, having gone through that journey myself as an adult. So I'm a trained dancer and I have a degree in dance, I have a master's in dance anthropology, but I had a huge break from ballet, and I didn't dance it for 16 years, and then I came back to it at 25. And I think just having gone through that experience myself, there were things that I saw, this could be different, or this could be easier for people, or this makes more sense, and I wanted to be able to do that. So I guess the short answer after all that is control. I wanted to have control of the business. I wanted to have control of the client experience from like start to finish in whatever way that was, whether it was through my YouTube tutorials, whether it was through working with me in weekly classes, whether it was coming to one of my adult ballet holidays, whether it was coming to one of my workshops. So
Can I ask you more about
yeah,
that?
of
Like,
course.
you mentioned that you noticed something that was like missing in like well, you mentioned Instagram specifically. Like in the Instagram community, you saw that there was many professional dancers, but not a place that was highlighting the journey for adult ballet like dancers or enthusiasts, people that aren't professional. So what did you decide to do that was going to be different to help those people that were, what was it that you said you weren't they weren't doing things the way that you would want to do them? What was it that you started doing that was
Different,
different?
yeah. So I think the main thing was just a huge shift in mindset from what professional ballet is to what ballet can be for a much broader audience, and just much more inclusive, much more accepting of the imperfection that is the reality when you're learning something. Because obviously ballet is absolutely one of those things that has a correct and an incorrect, and it can be very difficult if from the word go you're expected to be perfect. I mean, it's
Right.
impossible. So it's interesting because in a lot of other things in life we kind of accept that process, but for some reason in ballet, and I think maybe in some of the other arts as well, I think because it is an art, somehow it felt like a threat to take this thing that aims to be perfect and to allow people to do it imperfectly. But I think over time, what people have realized is that there is no threat. Ballet, professional ballet is professional ballet, and people dancing as adults doesn't affect that. You know, it's always going to be this other thing. Like, and we can all appreciate that, but at the same time, adult ballet can exist. So it was kind of the coexistence of those two things in more of a public space on an online platform.
Wow.
And people, I had some really, I had, and I still get, some really nasty comments, harsh comments, and all those things from people who just don't understand that. But I think one of the things that always drove me to carry on, even with these, like very negative people kind of coming at me and saying like I should be doing this, and like why are you showing this, and this isn't perfect, and we don't want to see that, and all of those things, I was like, if I have the resilience to like deal with all of this and I still love it and I know why I'm doing it, I want to give other people the gift of the permission to do that as well. That was something that I am still really passionate about, and allowing people the space to be a beginner at something as an adult. I mean, that's not just for ballet, that's for anything. And that's something that I care a lot about. And it's something that, I mean, I was there right at the beginning from just the luck of where I was at that point in my journey. And I happened to be training in the Conservatoire in Madrid. At the time when I started my Instagram account, that's actually why I started it, because I wanted a way to keep track of this journey without annoying all of my Facebook friends and posting it all on Facebook. So I created a new Instagram account that was just for my ballet stuff. And it just so happened that like slowly but surely people started finding me, and they were like, wow, an adult training at a conservatoire, like we haven't really heard of this is so different, like it's interesting that you're sharing this. And that's kind of how it all started online for me. But I have to acknowledge as well that of course there have been other people who at the same time have been growing the adult ballet movement in all different countries all over the world. People who have come from like a professional setting, people who have come from a teacher setting, people who have come more from how I did, from actually being an adult ballet dancer themselves, and then coming into this space. So it's just been really exciting to be part of the creation of this online world, I guess, of adult ballet dancers, of the community. And yeah, just keeping it really inclusive, encouraging people, and creating a space for imperfection in ballet. I think that's probably the main thing.
Yeah. Well, that already sounds different on Instagram because Instagram is like the place to go for like fake perfection.
Right, right, exactly.
um, so I'm gonna jog your memory a little bit. Do you
Okay.
remember how we initially got connected?
Yeah, so we met at the Madrid Blogger Network event, I think. Is that right?
I
Um,
I think so.
yeah, and I think it was at least the one that I remember actually speaking to you was the one where I was presenting about YouTube, I think.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's how we got connected. And then of course I came to the one when you were talking about funnels. So we had some kind of like exchange there.
Right, right. And what was it that piqued your interest? Um, let's say interest. What were you experiencing when the conversation started about working together?
Yeah.
What
So
was going on in your business and what was it? Because it sounds like you got started with this passion that took you to like start the Instagram account and actually, start this business, but something must have happened along that way where you were like, okay, Ryan,
it's
we should
time. Yeah. I mean, there's so much that I could say here, but I'll try and keep it brief. I mean, first of all, I did a lot of personal development, which had to happen for me as someone who is, like, let's be honest, a little bit of a control freak. And I think probably quite a lot of entrepreneurs can resonate with that. Of just getting to the point of realizing like I can't do everything by myself. I don't have to do everything by myself. It doesn't say anything about me as a person to ask for help or to outsource, and it's actually like it's an intelligent business move. So that it initially started with me opening to the perspective of, Natalie, you need help, and just like kind of pushing my ego to the side of being like, I've been able to figure out everything up until now, blah blah blah, and realizing that like, why on earth wouldn't I bring on an expert to help me with my business at this point? So that was one of the things. Another thing was like, interestingly, with COVID and all of my classes, like my in-person classes getting stopped, I was forced to, I mean, I was lucky because I already had my YouTube channel and I already had an online presence. So I was very lucky in that respect, but it forced me to pivot in my business to think more about my online offering. And I started doing like private online classes, and I thought, you know what, all of the things that I'm learning from this and the things that I realize now that I'm able to teach quite well virtually, I wanted to bring that to more people who couldn't uh, afford private classes. So that's when I had the idea for the online course. And then at the same time, during COVID, I also took the time to reflect on my business, and there were a few different like business mindset things that I was doing and a few courses that I'd done. And one of the big things that kept coming up is to like ask for or like look for other people to help you in your business and to stop trying to do everything yourself. And it coincided at a point where, I mean, you know this, I had literally just enough money to do it, like just enough. And you were very kind and you allowed me to do like a payment plan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But it was the best like financial decision that I've made in my business, was to put every like last centimo that I had into working with you. And then it was like exponential after that. So I mean, another part of it, again, that was like the personal growth and the business mindset growth that I'd done of taking that. It wasn't even a risk because I knew it was gonna like pay off because I know you and I knew all the good work that we were gonna do together. But it's still that moment of like, this is a big thing and it was scary. And then it's pushing through that moment of being scared because it's something new, it's something you haven't done before. And like having faith that it's gonna work out well, which it absolutely did. So
What
I'm
was
very
that?
grateful for a weird set of circumstances that brought me to that place.
Yeah, what was it that you were doing that made you feel like, man, like I need help? Was it something that you got to and you were like, you had an idea that you wanted to implement and then you started to do it and then you got frustrated with something specifically and you're like, okay, like what am I doing? Like what was that thing? If there was anything, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just like a slow process and you kind of
Yeah, at that point, it wasn't like, I don't think it was so much coming from like a pain point as such. I'd had those in the past. Another little, like, very, very short story. At one point, I tried to build from scratch on WordPress myself, having no coding experience whatsoever or any training in this, build a membership website, and I did it and I launched it. And then I was like, holy crap, I built a monster and I cannot maintain it. I cannot, and like I had to close it. So that was a hard lesson learned. And that was in 2019. So it wasn't this year, but the memory of that was still there for sure. And remembering like how much just time and energy and tears literally went into that endeavor, and realizing that, okay, if I want to launch this course online, I want to do it right, I want to do it properly. And I think starting to just take myself seriously as a businesswoman, which kind of seems silly because I'd been doing it for, at least 3-4 years, as in like me running my own business fully. But taking myself seriously enough to be like, what I'm going to create in terms of what I'm going to teach in this course deserves as good a marketing, and I cannot do that. Not marketing, but like the whole thing, the whole package of how it's going to, from the audience perspective or from the client perspective, like from beginning to end, not only the part where they're doing the course, but the whole feel of the whole thing. And I think it was just a moment where I was like, I'm going to take myself seriously now, and I want to invest in this because it's a way of like honoring what I do, if that makes sense.
right, right, definitely. So, I had no clue about the membership site. I don't think that might
Yeah,
have come up in previous conversations, but I didn't
I don't
remember.
talk about it a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, you kind of
I
like
tried to delete
put
that
that.
6 months of my life.
So, in our initial conversations, like what was it that made you think that this would be a good fit to help solve that issue or help you create that membership site that was actually going to work better or what was it about if you remember the conversations that made you think that okay, this is something that could fit in my business or in my you know in my life.
um, I'm sure you don't know this, but even from when you did the talk on the sales funnels, I had an idea in my head of like, one day I wanted to work with Ryan, but I didn't think that was going to come like anytime soon, because I was like, at that point, I was not in a point to financially to be able to like invest in my business at all. So I just wasn't sure. But even from there, from seeing you give that presentation on sales funnels, I was like, this is something that I don't consider. This guy definitely knows what he's talking about, and like just your vibe as well, because I have to be honest, like it wasn't just a business decision, it was also a personal decision in a way. And obviously when you're an entrepreneur, personal and business, like where is even the difference there? But just knowing you as well, and for me it's important to work with someone that has like an understanding, I think, of what it is to be an entrepreneur, or to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial, and also just like you're just good vibes. So that was another thing that was like part of that decision, I have to be honest. It wasn't just about the expert you're on your business, which obviously, but that was another part of it. And I'm trying to think back to our initial conversation, because I'd kind of already, like, maybe you didn't know because maybe I was like playing it cool, but I already knew that I wanted to work with you even when we, like, before we had the the first call. And actually, I'm just remembering now because do you remember that I actually was able to work with you first for free with CMX. I forgot that, but I'm just remembering that now.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
was it. That was it. Yeah, because I was
That
thinking
was
like,
I completely
oh,
forgotten about that. That's so yeah, you got a strategy session.
yeah.
Um, that's
But
right. Yeah.
even from there, because I was like one of the first people to like win a prize, and even from there, I knew before, like I was like, if I win, I'm picking Ryan if he's still there. Like that was, I had that certain. And then I think from there, actually, yeah, and now I'm so grateful to that because
I
it
completely
allowed me
forgot
to,
about that, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
to start working with you in that way. And then I was like, yes, like I have to. And I think that was the thing that took the fear out of it in a way, because once I was in it, once we'd already done some stuff together, I was just like, I have to see this through. Like this is going to be so good.
Right.
So yeah,
Maybe it
super
also
grateful
helped.
for that. Thank you, Valentina and Seppi.
Yeah, give them a shout out. So yeah, it's almost like maybe because of that kind of situation that just landed in in your lap, it took out the any barriers of like having to be like, okay, so now I have to like approach approach this situation, send him a, like it just made everything more natural because we had to
Yeah.
do a strategy session anyways. And so that was, I guess, luck. Wow.
Yeah, that was the universe being like, it's time.
Right, right. So then what did we get to next? Like what was after the strategy session? Because you
So
have to
then
jog
we
my
had,
memory. We've had
so
so many
then we,
conversations that
I
all just
know,
is in my
yeah.
mind.
So then we had the funnel, and I was like, this is amazing. I cannot implement this. So then I was like, I mean, I could have probably scrambled something together, but again, it comes back to the point of being like, I want to honor what I'm doing now, and I want to do this properly. And I knew that that was working with you. And so from there, I think we had a lot of conversations, and it was super useful that for me anyway, and it might work very different with different people, but just the way that I work, it was super useful for me to be having conversations with you and already working with you before I had finished making the course, because there were so many things that even I was able to change, like the introductions and different things. I was aware of how this was gonna be presented when I was actually making it, rather than finishing that part and then working with you. I found that really helpful, which is interesting because before I probably would have thought, well, my area of expertise is making the course in terms of like the content, and your area of expertise is all the stuff that goes around that. But actually, doing the two things together made the course way better. Doing the two things at the same time, and
Well, yeah. No,
out
no,
of
it's interesting to
well,
hear that side of it because when we started working together, we don't talk about this. It's all about
no,
what we want to do in the future, and now it's a moment where we're looking kind of back. It's a different perspective of everything. Um, but what other surprises? It sounds like you weren't expecting that, like to be able to, you thinking you're the expert and but in reality we both brought something to the table. What was the process like? Was it like hard for you to work with me? Were there any other surprises where you were like, uh was not expecting this?
yeah, so
Yeah.
many surprises. Which is, I mean, first of all, it's normal because it was the first time that I was ever working with someone on my business. So of course there are going to be surprises along the way. Some of them were like in the moment, good surprises. Some of them were more difficult surprises, but they all turned out to be good in the end. So something that I super appreciated was like you calling me out on my shit, basically, because I really needed that. And like, it's so funny that until someone's as as what's the word, like cares as much about the end result as you do, that people won't really call you out. They'll just be like, yeah, that sounds good, yeah, charge what you want, da, 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 da. But like, because you were invested, that's what I want to say, because you were as invested in this project as I was, it was so good to like have you question me on all the things that I thought that I knew about my own business. And through the process of creating the funnel, and obviously like the pricing, for example, so many different moments along the way of like questioning how I do things, not just from the like funnel marketing perspective, but everything for that I do as a business, as a person running
I don't
my
know
own
if I
business.
criticized everything you do.
No, you didn't. But it was but it was the thing is that the things that we got to like get, or the things that I got really clear on from this process, I realized that they had implications in everything else. That's what I mean. So, like for example, the pricing thing. That's only one small thing, the pricing thing of this course, but it affected how I thought about how I price everything. Like it wasn't just this one thing. It made me think about, okay, well, how about my workshops? How about my private classes? Is it actually time like to put my prices up a few euros? Like it made me question all of my business, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to question, I think. And it's so easy to get complacent in your own business, especially when things are going like kind of well and you're like, this is fine, let's just swim along. And actually like there's so much more depth there that I was blind to until I started working with you. So that was super awesome. And I have to say, like, it's surprising because I am someone who's really into, as I said, like personal development. I love reading different books around that, and same for like business mindset. Like I'm a member of Boss Babes, which is all around kind of like business strategy, business mindset, all those things. So again, here's me thinking like, oh, I'm really good at all of this, and then still working with someone else, and someone who really knows what they're doing, and someone who's willing to call you out on it because they're as invested as you. Because you could have just been like, she's my client, she's screwing herself, I'm just gonna do my job, make an awesome funnel, make an awesome thing, and like in the end, it's her. You know, she's making the wrong decision here, but I'm gonna do my job to the best of my ability and just leave her to it. But you didn't. You were like, I really think you didn't force me, but you were like, I really strongly think this thing, and I was like, okay, yeah. And it took me like a few, like I know we had a few like audios on WhatsApp, like not heated, but like, you know, really just like making me think. And I was super grateful for that. And it might have been uncomfortable at the time, but those are some of the best. I mean, obviously, all the stuff that I knew that was going to come out of it, which has been amazing, but these are things that I wasn't expecting that have been just so invaluable. So I'm super grateful for all of that as well.
That is so interesting to hear. It just never would have even occurred to me because everything happens in the moment so naturally,
Yeah.
and I tend to try to put a filter on myself because I speak quickly. I don't mean I speak quickly like speed wise. I mean I don't have a filter, and so I generally will. If I don't think I agree with something, then I will. I don't sit on it. I just say I don't really think that. um,
Yeah, and I
and
really appreciate that, but I also appreciate, sorry, just I want to say on the other hand, but at the same time, there were a couple of things that even against your best advice, I was like, no, and you let me do those things. So it wasn't like there was still like a to and fro there. And even if I didn't make the best like maybe business decision, just in terms of where I was on my personal journey, I wasn't ready to take like a certain little step yet. I mean, in general, we did everything, but even in those moments, you're like, okay, that's fine. Like at the end of the day, it's still your decision. So I liked that there was like a balance there as well.
oh yeah, and I won't even ask questions about it. I mean, I'll question you maybe initially, um, but you've got to pick battles, and it's not. There's so many different components and things to these types of systems, that you know it's. I'm not gonna die on the hill of whether it should be 97 euros or 95 euros, or that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, that's amazing to hear. So you've talked about, I guess, the experience, like how you felt, about beginning to work and making the decision to start working, and then the surprises that you had while working. What are some of the results that you have been able to achieve since we've kind of put these things together? Now, it wasn't all put together at once, I know. It's kind of, in your case, we did it in phases and kind of worked backwards, from the back forwards. Um, so what are some of your those results that you're able to achieve? You could even talk about financial results if you want.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, as I said at the beginning, that, it was a scary, just financially first, it was a scary financial investment for me to make because I had to, like I said, it was everything that I had at that time to invest in my business. It all went to you, and I knew it was going to pay off. I didn't know how long that would take, and in the end it took less than 2 weeks, so that was amazing because it could have been like, a few months and it still would have been an amazing investment, but it was like less than 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, this is really awesome, and this was the best decision that I made in my business. So that was really cool. And then of course, like after the 2 weeks, it's carried on selling. So super happy with the results of the course. And the other thing that I never, just things that I never bothered to set up, which I really should have done before, that are going to serve me so much long term, like having an email list and having clients tagged in different, what their different interests are within adult ballet. All of those things that are going to be, now that I've got them, I'm like, this is amazing. This is going to be super useful. But that I'd just been lazy about before, as well as having a beautiful website, amazing, like sales pages, all of that's kind of a given. But yeah, I've had really, really lovely feedback as well from people in the community. That's something that I'm really grateful about for Instagram, because it's not just people arriving at my website, checking it out, being like, oh, cool, and then leaving. I actually get to have conversations with people and them tell me how much of a lovely space it is on the internet, and just such positive feedback. And I think people seeing me now in a more professional way, but then I still have that ability to be like close in terms of, they've always got access to me on Instagram through DM. But being able to see my business in that more professional way as well has been really lovely. So, I mean, there are so many things I could talk about, but I think, first of all, just being able to have that investment pay off so quickly. But going further, it's like all the things that I've learned in this process that I will be able to, like, literally, that will serve me for the rest of my business. So even though we work together for a period of months, I really feel like I'm a different entrepreneur now in terms of the things that I know how to set up, because it wasn't as well just like, please can you do this, and then you disappeared, you did it, and you came back and then it was there. Like, I got to be part of the actual process, so I understand it. And there are things that I'm able to implement now, little bits myself, and then of course, when I need to come back, I know you're there and you're someone who understands my business. So it's like win-win really, because there are things that I can do, and then I also have you when I really need it, and I don't have to go back to square one again, because you already know my business, and I'm super grateful for that as well. So I just feel like this is the start of like many more collaborations.
So how does that compare to like the project you mentioned before of creating a membership site yourself?
Oh
Um,
my God, it doesn't
like,
even compare, honestly. Like, that was, Ryan, I cried so many times, and I'm not someone who cries easily. Like, I'm quite a strong person. But it was so lonely. Like, it was so lonely. And people who are entrepreneurs will understand me saying this, but even more than that, because I just was like so out of my depth. It was such a waste of my energy as well, because I really had to like give so much of my energy to that I wasn't teaching my best classes. I wasn't showing up online as much as I should have been. I wasn't interacting with people as much as I wanted to, because so much of my energy was going into stuff that was like draining me. It was just draining me. So I mean, this has been completely different, because it allowed me to, as well as learning, because I love that, and I know that every entrepreneur is like a lifelong learner, because you have to be. So as well as being able to learn, but learning in like a very safe space, like a held space, like knowing that you've got this, even if I don't, like, you've got this. And that just gave me like the mental space and the kind of support to do my best work in terms of making a really, really good course, and keeping everything else going in my business at the same time. So the actual experience was like, I can't even compare it. It's like night and day.
so before we even started working together, I mean, did you kind of realize, it sounds like you kind of did, that you had those gaps in your business or in your process, like the feeling of being overwhelmed is something that you just described. It sounds like, um, or did it actually take you like seeing my presentation to be like, oh, so that's what I should have been doing? Or was it actually you going through the gamut and feeling that pain that made you realize that you needed, you know, help in your team? You need someone on your team. I don't know if
A
my
little
question is
bit of,
clear.
no, yeah. It's a little bit of both. So I mean, as I said, that was in 2019. So what I did after that was I was just like, I'm never doing that again. That was my decision. And then look at me now, I've got a membership site again, but it's a completely different thing. But my reaction to that initial experience was like, I'm never doing that again. It was called, the membership site was called adultballetcommunity.com. And basically after that it was such a like bad experience that I stopped everything that was related to that, and I did everything under my brand, which is Natalie Danza. So that was like such a bad experience. I literally like left it behind, and I was just like, basically I put blinders on to my business, I guess, because I was like, I'm just focusing on these things. And it was the workshops, it was the holidays, it was like teaching, it was my YouTube channel, all the things that I'm still doing. But I was like, crossed my arms and was like, I'm not doing any of that other online stuff because it was such a bad experience. And so in a way, it wasn't that I was like, I kind of had an awareness of what needed to be done, but I wasn't even looking at it because I was just like, nope, that's not what I want to do, or like it's too scary, or I can't do it, and I can't afford to like get someone else to do it for me, blah blah. Fast
Right.
forward to COVID and everything going online and having another chance and like literally time and not physical space but like mental space to reevaluate and be like, actually I was doing that for a reason. I was doing it for a reason. The execution was terrible. The experience was terrible, but there was a why behind what I was doing, and that was to share ballet more widely with people who can't afford like private classes or whatever, and to bring like more value to the community. And that never went away, so it was just the time to revisit it, with the awareness of what didn't work. So I knew what what wasn't going to work. And then to answer your question a little bit more specifically, like, was I aware of all the things that I wasn't doing? So in a way, yes, because I knew, I knew I'd close that door. I knew I'd close that door. I knew I'd close that door. But there were definitely other things that I didn't know that I should have been doing that I wasn't doing, if that makes sense. So there were things that I was like, if I was running a good business, I would be doing these things. But there was a whole other thing that I didn't know that I also should have been doing, that I got to see when we were together. So there was like, yes, some awareness, but not full awareness of what needed to be done.
Got it. It's almost like when you have that. Every business owner has passion, or they should have passion about what they want to do and pursue. And it's when you can like mate that passion with the skills that you need to be set up for success, that success will actually happen. And I think lots of us feel when we're in our own business that, so you kind of recognize that, but you conflate sometimes the passion and the skills, and you say, well, I've got the passion, I want to do this, so that means therefore I can,
Yeah,
and so I will. And
yeah,
often that doesn't mean you couldn't, but you kind of disregard the fact that, well, I can still fill those skills using someone else's skills to complement my passion, so that I don't have to learn those skills, because you're going to have to learn the skills, yes or yes. Like there's
yeah.
no way around it. So that's another super interesting and insightful thing to hear. So looking ahead, what's in store for you? What's like looking ahead, like the next month or 2 months? What's in store for you now that this is in place? What are you going to be focusing on?
So I mean, right now I'm finishing my book, which is the adult ballet book, and I think what has given me like really a lot of confidence to be doing another thing that is not paying right now, the same as when we were building the course, is seeing how actually it's possible to start to automate my business, because I've had none of that before. And so I've had like the idea that I would write a book for a long time, but I didn't think I'd be doing it now. And then, again, another thing that happened during COVID, where by coincidence, so the other girl who I'm co-authoring with, she's a graphic designer, and it's not like just a textbook. It's an interactive book, like people can write in it. It's kind of like a journey, I guess, in a book. And she reached out to me and she was like, we should write a book together. We should make a book together. And I was like, this is not the right time. Like, I need more years of experience. I don't really know. I don't really have time, because we were working already on this course, but at the time that I had this conversation. But again, with the clarity of COVID, and also kind of with the uncertainty of like, I don't know exactly when I'm going to get back in the studio and teaching. And that's really what I love so much. But making the course and doing this book is another way of like, that I can give all the love for adult ballet that I have and like get it out of me. So the book is another way that I'm doing that. And again, by the time that it's out, being able to kind of automate that and have those different aspects of my business, I'm so grateful for that. And you know, the first thing that allowed me to see the potential of that was having a YouTube channel. And even though you're constantly creating content, you know, you do have that thing of getting paid every month. And that was the thing that kind of opened me to that possibility, and then now making it a reality with the course. And now, like, after this, making that another reality with the book, which will be like my first product. So it's really exciting. But at some point I would like to have like a few weeks off and be able to have those things in place, and the systems in place, and the emails in place, where I can actually, you know, like take a week or 2 weeks off from teaching, and everything else is going to be flowing in the background. So I'm really excited to get to that moment, which should be soon, should be like at the beginning of next year.
Yeah, hopefully we can continue and make the whole, process completely automated, because we've set you up to be in a very good position for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm wrapping up here, but would you say there's anything in particular that would have put you over the fence uh, to work together? Um, I know that your circumstance was particular because you got the free strategy session. But was there anything else that you could recall that you would say put you over the fence? You can be honest. If there wasn't, that's fine too.
As in, like, that would have put me off, or that would have made me be like, definitely do it.
Definitely. Yeah. Something that made you say, okay, definitely.
I can't think of like one thing like very, very specifically. I was just very lucky to have all those factors come together. Like I said, like knowing you kind of as a person, seeing the work that you've done, like hearing your talk on sales funnels, realizing that that was something that was missing, and finally acknowledging that I wanted it to be a part of my business. Because I have to just say one other little thing very quickly for anyone who might be like in more of an artistic sector. There is this really weird thing where there's somehow like very businessy and strategy stuff is like bad, and somehow you have to be like the starving artist, or the, I don't know, there's this still a weird thing. And I realize again through the personal development stuff that I had some of that mindset still sticking in my head of like, you know, you dance because you love it, not because you're going to make money from it. You're going to, you know, always be struggling, or all of these kinds of old beliefs. And then the whole thing of like how business has been done in the past, which has been maybe like very rigid, very structured. And I think some of those things have put people who are more in the arts or humanities off going towards that. And so I think that as well, knowing that you are an entrepreneur and you built your own business, and knowing that you've been through those things, so it's not going to be as rigid. Like you, as an entrepreneur, you always have to be flexible. So I think knowing that, and also just knowing you and knowing that you're not about the like take advantage of the client. You're all about like bringing the value, which is what I'm about. So that like having those two things align was probably the thing that really made it go into like this is a definite, because that had been one of the things that had held me back before, definitely just the kind of outside, like very masculine type business, push, 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 sell, sell, sell. And like I'd gone so far on the other extreme that there was no balance in the middle, which is what it needs to be, because in the end, like it's still a business. So as much as I'm bringing value and I love what I do and I'm here to serve people in the adult ballet community, like getting to the realization that working with you will allow me to do that even better. It's not taking away any of that. So I think that part was really important for me.
That's awesome to hear. Very cool. So can I ask, would you recommend other people work with me and Amplify Strategy?
Yes, of course. I mean, from everything that I've been like raving about, I mean, I don't know if you know, but probably you know because you've already spoken to some of them. But I've already recommended you to some of my close friends who are also entrepreneurs, and of course, like I would recommend for anyone who is in that same position as me, and of course much further forward than I am in my business, but especially for those people who are like a little bit nervous. If this is the first time that you're thinking like, is it time in my business to do it? Obviously, you need to make sure that financially it's viable. But if the main thing that's holding you back is just like, oh, I think I can do it myself actually, or maybe I'll try and teach myself this and do it that way and da. Why not? If you have the financial ability to do it, get it right the first time. And like I said, like I learned so much through working with you as well. So I've grown. It's not just been like get this thing done for my business. It's been for me as well, like a whole transformation in terms of how I run my business and who I am as the owner of my business. So yeah, I mean, I can't really recommend enough like all the things I've said, all the wonderful things that have happened since here, the trajectory that I now see myself on. Yeah, like highly, 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 highly recommend.
Who would you say is the most ideal fit for this type of system or this type of project?
I mean, obviously, anyone who's in a kind of similar situation to me, where you're running your own thing, if you have any kind of service or like online service or online product, but I'm sure you would do it equally well for a like in person, like a physical product or an in person service. Um, but especially if you are getting to a point where you feel like whatever you're creating or whatever you're offering is really good, but things aren't coming back to you as much, like love and energy that you're putting into what you're creating is not like quite coming back in the same way. I feel like this is the thing that allows it to, I don't know, that allows that energy to flow back to you because it's set up in the proper way that it should be. And I think another thing that was really amazing for me was to have someone else's, to have your like vision of actually what I'm doing. It's so interesting to see how another person sees what you're giving and the value you're bringing, because so often you can't see it for yourself. Like you think you know what you're doing, and you kind of course you do to a certain extent, but there's another 20% that you're blind to because it comes so naturally to you that you don't even think to tell people about it, or you don't even think to mention it, or you don't really, let people know. And I avoided using the word sell there because you see I've still got this like no business lingo mindset, but you don't sell yourself as well as you maybe should, and having like an outside perspective on that has been super useful. So definitely for anyone who resonates with any of those things that I've talked about, or any part of like my business, if you see it reflected in your business, for sure. But also for people who are much later on their journey, like as I said, we're planning to work together in the future, because as my business grows, I know that there's going to be plenty more opportunities to take advantage of more sales funnels, more automations, more linking between all the different things that I'm putting out there. So yeah, I mean, I think you probably could bring something to lots and lots of different businesses as well as entrepreneurs, but that's been my experience.
In, let's say, less than 5 words, if someone's on the fence right now about maybe working with me, why do you think they should take action?
5 words.
Or one word?
They should take action because, like, don't wait. Like, start now. Start imperfectly. I mean, this kind of goes back to even what I've been talking about with the adult ballet community, like being a beginner at something, or even this, waiting until you have the absolute perfect service or product in your business before you start working with someone. You've missed the boat there, I think, because as I just said, like, I'm so grateful that I started working with you before I'd finished the course, because it allowed the course to be way better than it would have been if I just, like, you know, waited until I thought I had a perfect course and then come to you. So I think the co-creation was super useful. So yeah, I think mainly I would say, like, just do it, start now. If you can invest, because either you'll learn and you'll be like, maybe next time I'll do it myself, or I'll go with someone else. Or you'll be like, this, like me, this is the best decision that I've made for my business. And now I'm on, like, such an upward trajectory, and I've learned so much and I've gained so much, like, financially, business wise, personally, that you just were like, well, that was an amazing decision. So either way, it's always time to take action, I think. I don't think of any other words. What other words? Like, why should people take action? I can't hear you now.
Oh, sorry, 'cause I had it on mute. No, I was just saying, I was like 5 words more or less, it's but that's fine, it was great.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate those words. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think I've said, like, pretty much all the things that I've been thinking, because obviously I've known that I wanted to, like, say some of the stuff, get some of the stuff out there so people know about it. And I think I've pretty much all the things I was, like, storing in my head, like bullet points. This is this. I think I've said pretty much all of them. Um,
Well, great.
but
Well,
yeah, just like,
thank you,
thank
Natalie.
you.
I just wanna say that. Thank you, for taking the time to, to express these feelings and your experience and share your thoughts and experiences with not just me, because this is gonna be for other people also to see, and for being such a great ideal client, because it's also not easy to, you know, there is a certain degree of chemistry that has to happen in order for um, these things to work out. And you've just been a pleasure to work with, and so I really appreciate it. And the experience working with you has been equally as flattering to me as you've flattered me in the last 30 minutes. So I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much.